The Arizona sun blazed overhead as Carter Langston's sleek black Tesla glided down the quiet desert highway. He was on a solo trip to clear his mind, a rare escape from boardrooms and billion-dollar meetings. The car had been his loyal companion for years, until today. With a sudden jolt and a dashboard alert, the engine sputtered and coasted to a dead stop. Carter cursed under his breath and stepped out into the dry heat. Miles from the nearest town and no signal on his phone. He scanned the horizon and noticed a small roadside garage not far ahead. He squinted against the sun as he approached the garage, its faded wooden sign swinging lazily in the breeze. It looked like something out of an old western, a relic of another time. The place seemed deserted until he noticed someone crouched by a rusted tool chest, a small figure. As he got closer, he realized it was a young girl, maybe 12, dressed in grease-stained overalls with her hair tied back. The girl looked up unconcerned and wiped her hands on a rag. "Car trouble?" she asked plainly. Carter raised an eyebrow, half amused and half confused. "Yeah, it just died on me down the road." She stood, barely reaching his shoulder, and picked up a wrench. "Pop the hood. I'll take a look." Carter hesitated. "You are your parents around?" The girl didn't flinch. "Nope, but I know what I'm doing." There was something so matter-of-fact about her that he complied without another word. Maddie lifted the Tesla's hood and peered inside. Her fingers moved with precision and focus, her brow furrowed in concentration. Carter watched in silence, slightly bewildered. He'd expected a phone call to a mechanic, not a middle schooler playing with high-voltage wiring. Yet within minutes, she tapped something, tightened another bolt, and stepped back. "Try it. Now," she said. He slid into the driver's seat and hit the ignition. The engine hummed smoothly to life like nothing had ever happened. He stepped out, stunned. "You actually fixed it." She smiled, revealing a set of dimples that made him freeze. Those dimples, he had seen them before, years ago, on a photo he kept hidden deep in his wallet. His heart thudded. "What's your name?" he asked cautiously. "Maddie," she said. "Short for Madison." His throat tightened. Can I show you something?" She nodded slowly. He pulled out the worn photo of a chubby-cheeked baby with big brown eyes and those unmistakable dimples. Maddie tilted her head, studying the photo. "That's me?" she asked, confused. "I don't know, maybe." Just then a dusty pickup rumbled into the garage lot. A tall, wiry man in his 60s stepped out and froze when he saw Carter. "You," he muttered. "You're—" Carter looked up, equally stunned. "Hank?" The older man took a step back. "You're her father." His voice cracked. Carter's legs nearly gave out. The world spun for a second. Everything he thought he'd buried in the past now stood in front of him, breathing and alive. Years ago, Carter had been locked in a brutal custody battle with his ex. She vanished with their baby girl when the court granted Carter partial custody. For years, there was no trace. Carter hired investigators, spent millions searching but found nothing. He mourned his daughter as if she were dead, until now. "Where has she been?" Carter whispered. Hank looked down. "Your ex dropped her at a shelter and vanished. I was volunteering there. She was sick, fragile. I took her in, raised her, gave her this place." Maddie stood between them, wide-eyed, trying to process everything. "You're my real dad." Carter knelt, fighting back tears. "Yes, I never stopped looking for you. I never stopped loving you." She didn't run, didn't cry. She just stepped forward and touched his face, as if trying to remember something forgotten. "I always felt something was missing," she said softly. Carter pulled her into a gentle hug. Hank turned away, wiping his eyes, overwhelmed by the moment unfolding in front of him. They sat inside the garage office, sipping lemonade that Maddie had insisted on making. The dusty walls were covered in hand-drawn engine diagrams, old car parts and faded photos of Maddie growing up. Carter couldn't stop staring. She was brilliant, self-taught, mechanical instincts sharper than most engineers he employed. She built her first go-kart from scrap at 8, Hank said proudly. Won the county derby last year. Carter laughed through tears. She's amazing. Maddie blushed. I just like fixing things. That evening, Carter called off his trip. He found a nearby motel and returned every morning to the garage. Over the next few days, he brought photo albums, medical records, and old toys Maddie had once owned. DNA tests confirmed what they already knew in their hearts. Carter Langston was her biological father, but Maddie wasn't ready to leave the only home she'd known. I don't want to leave Grandpa Hank, she said firmly. Carter smiled. Then I'll come here, every week, no matter what. They created new routines. Carter brought her books on advanced mechanics. She helped him fix up an old motorcycle he had sitting in storage. Together they laughed, tinkered, and started stitching together a bond time had tried to steal. Maddie began asking questions about her mother, about Carter's world, about the mansion he owned but had never called home. You don't have to choose, he told her. I just want to be in your life. She nodded. Okay, but you better learn how to change your own oil. The story exploded online after a passing traveler posted a video of Maddie fixing the Tesla. Once reporters discovered who she was and what she'd done, headlines followed. 12-year-old girl repairs. Billionaire's car turns out. She's his daughter. TV interviews flooded in. Morning shows, documentaries. Tech firms offered scholarships. MIT sent an invitation. But through all the noise, Maddie stayed grounded. I'm just a girl who likes engines, she told the cameras, and I finally found my dad. Her story captivated the nation. One evening, Carter brought her to a private event in Phoenix. Surrounded by executives and influencers, Maddie stood at a podium, fidgeting nervously. Carter introduced her with pride. She's not just smart, she's brave, and she fixed more than my car, she fixed my heart. The crowd erupted in applause. Maddie looked down, shy but smiling. Afterward, she clutched Carter's hand tightly. I want to keep coming to the garage, she whispered. That's where I feel most like me, Carter nodded. Then that's where we'll be. As the months passed, Carter slowly introduced Maddie to his world, but never forced her into it. They built a writhe. Weekdays at school, weekends at the garage, summers filled with road trips and restoration projects. Hank remained a vital part of her life, and Carter respected that deeply. Maddie became a symbol of resilience, brilliance, and unexpected reunions. She taught the world that genius can come from anywhere and that sometimes life brings back what we thought we lost when we least expect it. Hank sat down on the creaky wooden bench outside the garage, staring at the ground. Carter stood across from him, arms crossed tightly, the folded DNA test still clutched in his hand. Maddie leaned against the doorframe, quiet, watching the two men like a storm brewing. The silence thickened until Hank finally spoke. She was wrapped in a blanket, just lying there outside the shelter. I didn't know her name, no ID, nothing. He glanced up, eyes weary. I wasn't trying to hide her. I just figured no one was coming. Carter's jaw tightened, emotions swelling behind his calm. Carter unfolded the paper, smoothing it with one hand. I searched for years, he said, voice cracking. Her mother vanished after the custody battle. I thought they went overseas, but all this time she was here. Hank nodded slowly. We stayed. Off the grid. I didn't want the state taking her. Maddie blinked, trying to absorb every word, her fingers tightening around a wrench unconsciously. Carter crouched beside Maddie, holding out the photograph again. That's you, taken right before everything changed. You had just turned 1. Maddie studied it, her young face reflecting a storm of questions she couldn't form yet. That's really me, she asked. Carter nodded, eyes misty. Hank stepped forward gently. I never knew where she came from, but I loved her like my own. I didn't steal her. Carter looked at him with gratitude, not accusation. You saved her. The weight of those words hung in the air, powerful and true. Maddie sat with Carter later that afternoon while Hank brewed coffee inside. "So, you're my dad?" she asked softly. Carter chuckled nervously. "I guess I am, but I won't take you away from here. I want to be part of your life." She looked at him, curious. "What if I don't remember anything?" He shrugged. "We'll make new memories, if that's okay with you." She hesitated, then nodded slowly. "Only if Grandpa Hank's part of it too." Carter smiled genuinely. "Deal." They shook hands like mechanics, sealing a promise born from broken years. Over the next few days, Carter stayed in town. He didn't bring lawyers or reporters, just himself. He helped Maddie in the garage, clumsy with tools but eager to learn. Hank watched with quiet pride as the two bonded. Maddie taught Carter how to clean spark plugs, and he taught her how to solder wires for small gadgets. At night, they shared stories. Carter showed her pictures from when she was a baby. She asked about her mom, and Carter told her carefully enough to understand, but not enough to wound. News spread fast once a local journalist got wind of the story. The girl mechanic who fixed a billionaire's car and turned out to be his daughter became a headline that traveled coast to coast. Cameras arrived outside the garage. Carter kept the press at bay as much as he could. "She's just a kid," he told them. "Respect that." But Maddie, when asked if she'd like to share her love for cars, surprised everyone. She stood tall, oil-stained hands and all, and said, "Sure, as long as I can still keep fixing engines." Carter's company offered her a scholarship the next week, an early investment in her future. She was invited to speak at a junior inventors panel in Austin. Carter stood beside her backstage, helping straighten her oversized shirt. "Nervous?" he asked. Maddie grinned. "Not really. I've fixed worse things than stage lights." She stepped onto the platform as cameras flashed, speaking clearly about mechanics, family, and dreams. The crowd roared with applause. Carter wiped his eyes. Hank sat in the front row, clapping the hardest. Despite the sudden fame, Maddie remained grounded. She still woke up at 6 a.m. to help Hank rotate tires or patch leaks. She still climbed trees and raced dirt bikes down the hill. The only difference now was that Carter joined her. He bought a small house nearby, close enough to visit every day. On weekends, he helped build a bigger garage, complete with a hydraulic lift Maddie had only dreamed of. "Think we can lift a Tesla on this?" she joked. Carter laughed. "Only if you're the one operating it." One evening, they sat around a bonfire behind the garage. Maddie, Carter, and Hank roasting marshmallows while the desert air cooled. Maddie looked at the stars and said, "I used to wonder where I came from. I'd make up stories. I was a space baby or a superhero dropped here by mistake." Carter put his arm around her. "You were never a mistake. You were always wanted." Hank nodded, voice rough. "And now you know where you came from. But even more important, you know where you're going." Maddie's story continued to inspire. Schools invited her to speak. Toy companies sent kits. She even got letters from other adopted kids who felt seen for the first time, but she never let the attention go to her head. When asked what her favorite part of the journey was, she always gave the same answer: fixing the car. That moment changed everything. And it had. What began as a broken-down vehicle on a desert highway became a door to a family lost and found again. Carter adjusted his schedule to never miss weekends. Every Friday he showed up, sometimes with gadgets, sometimes with snacks, but always with that familiar look of gratitude. Maddie had his eyes, everyone said so, and she had his drive too. She once told a reporter, "I think engines and people are kind of the same. Sometimes they stall, sometimes they get lost. But with the right tools and the right hands, they can start again." That quote ended up on the wall of Carter's company headquarters next to her photo. Years passed, and Maddie kept turning wrenches and dreaming bigger. She designed her own engine by age 15. At 16, she built a solar-powered motorcycle. But she never forgot the day she met her dad, not at a fancy gala or reunion, but on a dusty road. with grease. On her nose and determination in her heart, that day changed all of them. It fixed more than a car. It mended hearts, rebuilt trust, and gave new purpose to 3 lives that were never really broken. Just waiting for the right spark. Maddie once asked Carter, "What if your car had never broken down?" Carter smiled. "Then I'd still be searching, and you'd still be a mystery. That car breaking down was the luckiest thing that ever happened to me." Maddie grinned. "And probably the best engine I ever fixed." They laughed together, Hank joining in from across the garage. Some stories aren't written in boardrooms or courtrooms, but on pavement, under the hood, and in moments that don't make sense until they do. And so every weekend, in that dusty Arizona garage, Carter, Maddie, and Hank built more than machines. They built something stronger family. Not perfect, but real. Not planned, but powerful. And no matter where the cameras pointed or which magazine told the tale, the truest version of the story lived in the sound of a wrench turning, the hum of an engine, and a little girl's laughter echoing through the garage she'd always called home.